Live. Okay, this is exclusive for the X platform. Okay, broadcasting. I've been on these Zooms all day, biotech scanner, all day long. A different Zoom here. We're getting ready for a conference, a research conference in Oklahoma next month. So
Oh
I
yeah.
got to prepare all the stuff, and I'm waiting for the day, biotech scanner, that you and I plan a conference, but it's a celebration conference for the Anafilm release party. All right. I will come to you in Dallas. I know Luka Doncic's not on the Mavs, on the Lakers now. But I'll
Dude.
I'll come out there.
I will come to
That day is soon, man. Maybe a year from now.
you in Dallas. I
We're waiting for the people. Whenever you come on Biotech Scanner, we get record crowds. By the way, while we wait for people, did you see Biotech 2K's valuation model for biotech, like how to value biotech?
I saw you tweet that out. I had not had a chance to look
I
at that.
gotta send it to you. It's pretty interesting. I mean, he doesn't claim it's like a formula. Like it's an arbitrary thing he created over the years.
Okay.
But when I ran the numbers for AQST, it came out to $18.90 or something a share is what it
That's
should be valued at.
that's very interesting because it really falls almost exactly to the share count of AQST and comparing that to Sprite.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's yeah. So based on that, I'll have to look at it, but just by hearing the share price.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Because with AQST, it's a little bit complicated because unlike other biotech, and this is what we're going to talk about, it has revenue. It
Yeah.
has like a business. Even if AQST some reason decides tomorrow, we're not going to develop drugs anymore, they still have a business.
Right.
They still have a freaking business.
Right. And they're trying to grow it in the manufacturing.
Mhm.
They're advertising it quite a bit. They hire some new people on that as well. So yeah, it's very unique for a small biotech. Um, People don't remember, they may not know, but Aquestive has been around for a while.
Yes.
And you being a great example, you invested in AQST not because of NFL, but
Liberman.
Libovan.
Hmm.
And y'all got, man, I said shareholder, y'all got crushed
Yeah.
when that news came out, right?
Yep. And I learned about AQST from another stock I was passionate about called ChemFarm, and they were making Vyvanse. It was also a 505B or whatever
Uh-huh.
for Ritalin, and they
Okay.
actually got approval. And guess who manufactured their drug?
Yep.
And then
AQST.
when that drug got approved and that stock only took off for a day and then it crashed, I was thinking, man, I should have invested in the partner company. AQST was getting royalties from that drug.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how I learned about AQST. This was 2019.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's a very unique company because it's revenue generating, and so and you really as an investor, if you in or if you have any knowledge of investing, you should not take their 55 to 57 million dollars annually of revenue. Think about that. If you don't have that, do you know how much more dilution and offerings we will get?
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened to other companies.
Cam Farm, KMPH. That's what
Yeah,
happened to them.
yeah. So, and and I told you, but I have not told others. But Ernie Toth, who is the CFO for Aquestive,
Mm.
he's one of the most just underappreciated person of the entire company.
Yeah.
He's the
Did you
one
see him today?
person. that saved the company from going bankrupt.
Did you see? I didn't know. We need to do a deep dive on that maybe
Oh
one of
yeah,
these.
because after Libervant, got delayed on their approval. I mean, things went haywire. And of course, CEO left, and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
All of that happened.
And Barber got promoted from the ranks. That's what makes him
Yeah,
cool. People like to make fun of him because the stock's not doing good now, but they say, oh, he's boring, this and that. No, the guy worked his ass off at the same company for like 15 years or something.
dude, Dan Barber is a perfect fit for AQST. I've done research on him. Okay, I I listen. He's a very good person, and that is to me very important here. He's just so down to earth. He is a family guy, 2 kids, one for one, and he has brought this company just from the ashes. I mean, of course, he's gotten really good advice from other people in the company as well, from Ernie, for example, and Steven Wasaki, was Wagaki,
The
the chief scientific
CSO,
officer. Yeah,
yeah. He was on
uh,
there today too.
yes, he was. And so, and he's basically the one. All of these AQC 108, Libovent, it's all him.
His Adrenoverse, Mr. Adrenoverse.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, anyways, basically, when with any company, with not just biotech, but when the share price keep dropping day after day, people get upset, and they, Barber, sell the company or whatever, right? Um, I was going to tweet out this yesterday that, like, Moderna, for example, go look at the share price. Look what happened to them. And look how many products do they have? How many vaccines do they have?
Mm-hmm.
Compared to their products with AQST, and compare the drop that they are experiencing compared to AQST. So you got to put things in perspective, right? When you decided to
Ooh,
invest,
that stock is ugly. You just told
yes,
me to look at it.
yeah. So
Ooh, that's bad.
when you decide to invest in a small biotech company, um, you have to know in advance that you need to give them time to do what they need to do, which is developing a drug, going through clinical trials, have delays, have additional studies,
Mm-hmm.
have to raise funds. If you're unwilling to go through any of that, you should not be investing in biotech.
You're a good example of this because you actually taught me how to be a better investor. The amount of due diligence you do, I'm not just saying it to like kiss your ass here on live. You're on another level, man. Like I thought I was doing due diligence. You take it to you read between the lines of every post they put, every little connection. You were one of the first ones to tell me Sherry joined the team. And I was like, what's the significance? And then you told me that you take you need this kind of conviction. Otherwise, you would have sold by now. Like, imagine you don't know anything about this and it goes from 7 to 295.
Yeah,
You're like, I'm out of this shit, man. I could have
yeah,
bought Nvidia.
yeah,
You start hearing all this other stuff, FOMO. But at this level, you buy more because you have
yeah.
conviction.
Well, the conviction comes from research, right? And I'm not saying that you can sell it. When you buy a certain level, you get up to a certain level, you can sell it and then come back, and that's fine. Because in biotech, there's this time gap. A lot of things could happen. If you think that it's going to go back down, you may want to test some profits and come back. I have a good example. I released VKTX when it was 12. I got it for like 1180 something. And when I announced it, it jumped to 12 immediately. And of course, it went all the way to 99 something, right?
Hmm.
Well, I sold at certain levels, key levels. Why? Because my portfolio, the fund is so small. I have to grow it. So what I did was I sold some and then keep writing some, right? Now, so that's one way to do it. But if I would have held the entire way, dude, how much bigger would my pot be now? But the thing is, nobody knows,
Right.
right? So with AQST, I I have done so much research to the point where I feel like, and I said this before, that I feel like if Dan dropped something, I would, let me pick it up. Dan Barber, CEO.
Yep.
Everything that, like a pin drop in the office, I feel like I could have heard it, right? Because I, I have so much conviction because I felt like the data is there. The data there. So we're going to talk about all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But shareholders have been very nervous because they missed one of the conferences. And then
I was one of them. I was nervous. I bought more, but I was like, man, that's not a good look. They go to GPM, they don't announce anything. Then what's going on?
yeah. And then the previous conference, they had a scheduling conflict, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what happened is, so shareholders get nervous and they start selling, they start cussing, they start, calling me pumper, whatever. um, and as always, when the share price drops, the roaches that come out from the sewers from everywhere, right? And that's so. Yeah, I have to warn people that when things are going down, people is gonna make it you feel even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you combat that with research and conviction. That's how you combat all of that. But so I was. So what happened? Why did they miss the one of the conferences that they're supposed to go to, right? And they said they had a scheduling conflict. Okay. Well, things have been happening a lot behind the scenes because they just received feedback from the FDA on their pre-NDA meeting, and the FDA told them to do several things, and the FDA also told them to do one or two things differently to their pediatric trials. So basically, they had to drop everything to get that done. Okay, so
they modified it. They amended their pediatric protocol, the study.
yes.
Okay.
Now,
Do you
I
know the
don't know what
detail
that
of the
is.
amendment?
They did not. They still have not said what it
Okay.
is. But Dan today said it's still basically the same trial. Um, single dose, and they're out. If I were to guess, the FDA may have asked them to say, okay, how about you do half of the patient they have to give the NFL themselves.
Oh, self-administer. Okay.
Yeah, because the FDA noticed that in the self-administration study, the level is kind of on the low end. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they may want to kind of repeat that, something like that. So basically, they have to drop a lot of things to get this done because the FDA also asked them, hey, how did you define your biologics or whatever drug, stuff like that. Remember in that feedback, give us that data. Dan said, we have the data, we'll show them. So they have to collect data, to kind of to put it in the NDA. And they are basically almost done. And they are basically waiting for the pediatric trial results which is coming in any weeks now. It's probably in 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, I'll say a month at most, probably 3 weeks. But yeah, so but they didn't miss to me the biggest one of the year is JPM in San Francisco.
Right.
And
That would be my biggest critique. Like, they know, unless they really don't care about retail, which it seems like they don't, man. Like, they're confident enough to be like, you know what? Some stocks, some biotech, they need retail to pump it.
yeah,
I've been a victim of some of those before.
uh-huh.
This one, if that's the biggest critique I have, is like, yeah, they're more for the institutional. Like, the retail will find us, but it doesn't matter. Otherwise, they would be having a reason, like, hey, we're not at or we are at JPM, but we're actually in private meetings. I mean, that release would have been,
Yeah.
Something.
Well, at that point, a lot of investors were worried,
Yeah.
and then some got really upset. Some of them are long-time investors that start getting wild, crazy. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So
You know what made it worse was that was around when the Trump got inaugurated, and there was uncertainty around what
Yep.
RFK is going to do with
Yes.
biotechs, and
Yes.
people were like, "Well, maybe the FDA is going to change," and now they had the green light. Now it's a yellow light.
Yeah.
Those people think the worst.
Yeah. They did. So I did reach out to somebody at the company, and they said, "Oh yeah, I mean, we're going to be there. We're going to be doing private meetings. They're going to be there doing private meetings." Um, but
See, a retail biotech would have been like, put out a release. Hey,
yeah,
try to pump
and
it.
and
Try to pump.
and then I did ask that person, are they going to release a PR on that? And I never got a response. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to say anything, and then until after the conference, because I don't want people to raise hell and say, hey, you told this person not. How come you didn't tell us, right? So
Yeah.
I waited until it's after and said, hey, by the way, I knew that they're going to be there, but as long-term investors, it's just, that's the only one conference that they missed that they didn't announce and stuff. But today's conference, Oppenheimer conference, and we're gonna go into that at length. To me, for me personally, is the most important conference that I've listened to that I've heard.
This year or
The
ever?
entire time that I have
Wow.
invested in this
Wow.
company,
Wow.
this conference was the most important one because it removed every questions and concern that I had about NFL's approval. I already have a very high conviction at being approved. It was 90, now it's 99.9. Because I wanted to hear from them.
So your conviction was 90, and now it's 90. After this, it bumped it up like 9 points.
Yeah, because because Dan Barber shared the concern that FDA had in the pre-NDA feedback, right? He didn't tell us. He hasn't told us how he's going to address those things. He said in the document that we have data to show, right, to address these concerns. But today's call, Dan went into detail of what they're going to say, right, and what they're going to put. Okay, So, and what he said was exactly what, if I were CEO, what I was going to do. I mean, like I was watching it, and I feel like I'm just, you know, like transferring my thoughts into his, because so what? So let's get this out of the way. That Anna Films, all these clinical trials got just great data. It's always positive. It actually got priority review, right, from after phase
Correct.
one. Yeah. And so the priority review affords them the ability to have more interactions with the FDA. They could call and they could talk to each other, whereas a company that didn't get a priority review does not have that access, right? And the thing is, when you have a breakthrough or one of a kind treatment, the FDA tend to reward you for that. And that's where you get a priority, and that's why you get a little bit more access to them. Okay. So now, what are the two concerns, even with all the great data that we have? One, the trials were all of the data. The FDA wanted to do a bracketing data, meaning of all of the injectable EpiPens, generic EpiPens, RVQ. They wanted the PK levels for NFM to be somewhere in between. Okay, they don't want it to be at the bottom or at the top. They want it somewhere in between. They did the same thing for Neffy. And
Are you talking now about the PK?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So there are two concerns that the FDA has in the pre-NDA feedback for NFL. One, at some point in a timeline, NFL on the repeat dose, the levels got a little bit high to them. It got outside of the bracket. It was higher than anything, higher than RVQ, higher than EpiPen, higher than generic EpiPen. And then on the single dose, okay, at the 45, 50, 60 minute, there are times that they drop outside, on the low side, okay, outside of the bracket on the low side, right? So those are the two main concerns that the FDA has, and Dan said that we have to address those concerns, okay? All right, so how are they going to address that? Okay, so Dan said that when you divide it out to the groups on the high end, okay. Well, he's saying is if you give the patient enough epinephrine with a single dose. Remember, the high end only happens on the repeat dose, right? If you give enough of epinephrine during the first dose, more than likely you never need to use the second dose. And guess who has the best, if you look at the numbers, the best concentration in the first 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes is
Right.
NFL. It
Yep.
has the best concentration, the fastest Cmax, uh, and, um, and so Dan also pointed out that in the general population, with patients experiencing anaphylaxis, and when they apply epinephrine, EpiPen, or generic, whatever, only 7 to 13% of the entire population that needed EpiPen needed a second shot. Okay, so
That's
only
big.
17%. Now, if you take out you take that population, and if that 7 to 10 population got enough of the concentration in the first dose, that number is going to drop drastically, even further, right? So, um, so that is that they address that. Hey, you know, but then the most convincing argument to me is not that, because there's two more arguments that Dan made, which is incredible. So now, but even Dan said, when you break it down even further and you compare that to EpiPen and RVQ and all that, it still kind of fall in line. It's in there. It's never completely out of range. And then so the only 7 to 10 of the population needed a second dose. Okay. Well, but the other thing is, he said, when somebody is in the middle of an anaphylactic shock, are you worried? Are you more worried about getting too much of a drug or too little? Do you want to get too much of a drug or too little? 99.999% of the doctors would say, I'd rather that patient to get too much of the drug. Okay.
That's what you want at that point.
That's what you want. Can you imagine you're about to die and you get the medication and you found out that medication was there, you took it, but it wasn't enough? Can you imagine how tragic that would be?
Yep.
So what happens when it is a little high? Well, we have an answer. And this is the most convincing evidence to address the FDA's concern about numbers being too high at a certain time on the repeat dose, which is, look at the safety profile. One patient in the repeat dose arms experienced vomiting. One. And 97% of the patient in the entire trial had symptoms that were mild to moderate and needed zero medical intervention. How can the FDA reject a drug with this kind of safety profile? You can't. You have to accept it. Now, on the low side, let's do the low side, on the low end. So at the 45 minutes, and some people on X have asked me this before, and you have asked me that before too. You know, at 45 to 60, you see it to get out of the bracket a little bit, but always maintain over 100 picogram per milliliter, which is the supposed efficacy, you know, the threshold. Okay, you have to maintain that. Okay, and NFL is able to maintain that. And Dan also pointed out that when you kind of comparing the overlap numbers with the other agents, NFL never got out of it. It's still within the bracket. Okay. Finally, and here's another argument for the high and the low both. In the rescue and epinephrine treatment, there is no established high level or low level. There's none. And then I kind of brought it up. There is none. Okay, so what is high? Dan said in the ER, doctors would see levels that are much, much higher than what is in NFL. And the patients are fine. And then if you have doubt, look at the safety data. One person threw up. One patient had some heart palpitation, but are you worried about that when you're about to die?
Right. This is not a drug that you take consistently, right? This is
hopefully once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hopefully
and then
never, hopefully once in a lifetime at the worst.
yes, but here's the thing that people forget about the indication for NFL if it's got approved. The indication is to treat severe allergic reactions and anaphylaxis.
Hmm.
I would say 90% of the patients using anaphylaxis can be for severe allergic reactions before it got to anaphylaxis. So they get, you know, really, stuffy, itchy, and remember, you have to take it as early as you can. Okay, the sooner you take it, the better it is. Okay, so don't take a chance because you taking NFL, even in the very mild stage, you'll find. I'm saying, don't take a chance, dude. If you had a history of severe allergy and you start getting stuffy nose and your throat's itchy, take it. It's not gonna
Right.
hurt you. It's gonna help you. Okay. Yeah. Is there a chance that you are overdoing it? Yeah. Yeah. Would you rather be overdoing it than underdoing it? Yes. Because the longer you wait, the worse it gets.
Yeah, and what was it, like 10 minutes or like the max peak, and then it starts to drop, but 15 or something like that, if I
Uh,
remember the data.
that yeah, it's no, it's more. You mean like on NFL?
Yeah, like Anafilm takes a while, like within minutes starts working, and then it reaches max peak like around 20 minutes or something,
It's
15, 20,
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Yeah.
Yes,
Um,
I'm saying even if you took it, let's say by accident, okay, you got 15 minutes to like hunker down and hey, I didn't actually have allergy and I drank a Red Bull earlier. I gotta take it easy right now for my heart rate.
well, don't forget too. Okay, so I did the argument for the PK,
Hmm.
but but there's another argument that trumps all PD. Okay, the PD, you cannot argue with the fact that with the OAS study, the oral allergen study, and they're the only one that's done it. Because remember, Neffy got rejected because they wanted them to do a repeat dose. Okay, they did not do an oral allergen study. All right, so Enofilm or AQST has a study that nobody has. It's the most real world study ever for epinephrine. And that is why I said the oral allergen study was more important than the phase 3 study, because that's what they're going to use in doctors' offices to convince doctor.
Right.
Remember,
And that came
yeah,
up today too. That it came out, I
it
believe
did.
Sherry brought that up today.
Yes. So one of the problems that Neffy is running into now is doctors saying, "Hey, you try it first. I'll try it later. I want to see how how that works with your patient first before I try it."
Right. Right.
Sherry said, but we have the study that ARS didn't have,
I see.
which is the oral allergen, the real world. What happened is that when the mouth starts to swell up, the tongue is getting itchy, the throat's itchy, lips getting larger.
Hmm.
What happened? Oh, doc, we just happened to have that study. Within 2 minutes, patients experience immediate symptom relief.
Right.
And what's amazing is in that study that the higher concentration of epinephrine after taking Anaphylm, the more the symptoms drop. And that is exactly what that means the drug is working. It is doing what it's supposed to do at its peak. It
Yeah.
does the most symptom relief. That's exactly what you want. Now, what you get in manual epinephrine injection is a really slow climb, up, right? And can you imagine experiencing an anaphylactic shock and you are given an EpiPen
Hmm.
and then you get to wait, wait, while the symptoms get worse and worse? Can you imagine the fear, in these patients and then their loved ones? But with NFM, it's almost instant. Dan said that we claim at 2 minutes is the first symptom relief,
Yep.
but that's when that's the first time they take the measurement. It could have been 1 minute because remember it dissolved instantly. Don't need water, just put it under your tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you have a drug, okay, and then another. So I already talked about there is no established concrete level. That is why the FDA used the bracketing system to judge the levels and to see. But so the thing is, how could you reject a drug that has a safety level that is unbelievable? Nobody discontinued the trial. Nobody needed medical intervention. And but when you dig deeper in the levels, it never got out of bracket. Even though when you look from a distance, it might show some too high and some too low. But again, there is no evidence that at the lows or at the highs that the drug's not working. But there is evidence that it works because of the PD study. The PD result shows symptom relief almost immediately. Um,
Do you think that's by itself just enough? You said you're 99% confident now. Do you think if there was a weakness, what would it be in the data? Or is it basically what you've just, all
those
these
two.
objections, those two? Okay.
Yeah, that is why I said the conference today was the most important one
Gotcha.
because we are now talking about the two things that the FDA is concerned about
Right.
and how the company plans to address it. And based on what I heard, that is exactly what I would have done. So the FDA said, you know what? At a certain time, in the repeat dose arm, the levels were a little bit high. Well, did anybody die? Did anybody discontinue the trial? How many people, vomiting? Oh, one person? One person?
And even though it was high, it's high relative to maybe the comparator, but it's not for the actual molecule epinephrine. It's within the range. It's within the parameters.
It's yes,
Yeah.
and they talked about that because and the more concrete data is the levels in the ER when a patient with severe anaphylaxis going into, they're going to inject as much epinephrine as they can.
Right. Right.
They're not going to wait.
Do you think in the ER is maybe the one place where they don't switch? They're just gonna keep using the EpiPen just because everyone's used to it. It's big. You can't lose it. You know
No,
where the Epi kit is,
yeah,
right?
I actually have the opposite deal because
Ah,
one of the doctors, and actually somebody shared with me on X that he's an ER doctor. He is human.
mm,
And when you see somebody experiencing an anaphylactic shock, it rocks your world too. It's a terrible sight. Okay,
mm.
I'm getting PTSD looking because I'm thinking about my sister because the colors are changing. because of that, all of that, vasodilation, they can't breathe. There's so many things, and their loved ones might be in there, and
Yeah.
then what happens, the doctor feel like they have to hurry. They feel like they have to hurry, and sometimes they don't do it correctly. They don't inject correctly.
I see.
You see? Whereas with
And you got to
NFL,
go through clothes. You got to
yeah,
go. Yeah.
yeah, you got to open that thing. You got to get it out. Okay, where's the thigh? You see
Yeah.
what I'm
Who knows if the guy's wearing warmers underneath his pants or basketball shorts? It's like a lot to go through.
Yeah, they freak out, and the yeah, and
Mhm.
so there's, and then I want somebody to share that they might have injected themselves accidentally because
Mhm.
the patient was just
Mhm.
moving around too much.
I see.
Yeah,
See, with me, the one concern it's his strength. It's a stupid concern, but if I had to be nitpick, it's so small you could lose it, right? And it's like EpiPen, you're not gonna lose. I mean, you're not gonna carry it with you in the first place. But
right.
if I have to pick something, I'm like, well,
Yeah,
its strength is its weakness, maybe.
yeah.
But the
When you have that issue, when a strength is also a weakness, the strength will always outweigh the weakness when that happens. Typically in the medical field, in
okay,
the surgical industry, when the strength is somewhat is a kind of weakness, then it will definitely drown out the weakness eventually.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, it's so on the call today. Basically, we now know the two things because everything else is flying color. One
yeah,
on a repeat dose, one part that was a little bit too high. On the single dose from 45 minutes to 60, it's a little bit too low. But again, there is no set in stone. What is too low, what's too high. And the thing that back NFL up is how can you argue with the PD results? How do you explain the blood pressure increase?
yeah,
Do you explain the heart rate increase? By the way, these are the result of symptom relief. You need these things to get rid of those bad symptoms from anaphylaxis. If you
right.
don't have blood pressure increase and your heart rate doesn't increase, that means you just took water.
Yeah, I remember the first time doing due diligence on this, I was confused because I'm in my world, we don't want high blood pressure. So I was like, oh, that's a good thing that the blood pressure is going up, but it makes total sense.
Yeah, you people don't know that you die much more quickly from low blood pressure than high blood pressure. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
so yeah. I mean, that's the trademark of anaphylactic shock is a low blood pressure, and that's what really destroys everything, kills a person.
Wow.
And so the hallmark of the disease is, you combat vasodilation with anaphylactic shock with vasoconstriction. And the beauty of Anafilm and its technology is that it doesn't cause vasoconstriction until the drug only after it got into the bloodstream. And that's what's the beauty of it, because you don't want it to constrict the moment it gets
Correct.
out. And that's why they have the permeation enhancer, built in and all that.
That's the
So
whole proprietary part
yes,
where why they're able to, they mentioned it today, why they're using it for alopecia. They're able to control the release, the rate, all
yeah,
those things. And those things they can vary. They can vary it for anaphylactic shock.
yeah,
It could, the rate can go quicker. Alopecia, it could be slower.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And another thing is, so how concerned is the FDA on the safety of NFL? How concerned are they? Well, not enough, because they are letting Aquestive to conduct the trial on kids.
They would have
Okay,
never allowed that if they had concerns, right?
exactly. They they're allowing Aquestive to conduct it on younger kids, lower weight, higher risk of side effect, they are allowing it. And number two, they are not asking Aquestive to do any additional trials. That is a really, really good sign. Okay. And I will send this on X sometime tomorrow. Did you know that Aquestive has another study that they published on another site, and it's basically making an argument that it's impossible to not accept an approved NFL. That this drug falls within the guidelines of the FDA, even though there's no, scientific numbers to follow by. The high is still within range, the low is still within range. But what you have is a very nice, clean safety profile. And then you have a real world study in the oral allergen study that show immediate symptom relief with a patient who is not exposed to allergen. The same with patient who was exposed to an allergen on the repeat dose side as well. They
Right.
did everything.
Because the rationale for that one was, let's say you're allergic to peanuts, you ate a peanut, now your mouth is swollen.
Yeah.
The rationale was maybe the NFL can't pass through the cheek, right?
Yeah. And what
Mhm.
what happened is with NFL, it's actually the opposite. Because what happened when you have vasodilations, the pore is going to get larger, this is going to expand, so it actually is going to absorb it even more. Okay, so I think, and that is why on the probably why on the repeat dose with that made the concentration even higher. I think that's just my guess. But ultimately, with a clean safety profile and a really nice symptom relief with the PD pharmacodynamic data, and then since you have no established concrete numbers of what is too high and what is too low, you cannot reject anything. You have no ground. Now, also too,
You're right.
yeah,
My only concern is there's been cases where the FDA is irrational, and that's, I guess, why it's not 100%.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
rational minds would would say this is massively undervalued and almost a no-brainer. But that's the little part where it's like, well,
it's not 100%.
yeah,
It,
yeah,
you know, that's why I never said 100%. That's like 99.9%. And
yeah.
now,
It's still
and
good.
now one thing that we have not talked about is that if you go on LinkedIn, since that's the main source,
Yeah, they've been
look
active
at
on there. They've been active.
they are much more active now than
Yeah,
ever before, right? Look at all of the organizations, the advocacy organizations that are involved in, that they sponsor. Even Halloween with the green pumpkin thing for that tells people that, hey, for kids who have severe allergy, you get it from this box, from this pumpkin. The other pumpkin is for candy, but here you get toys instead.
hmm.
They would think of stuff like that. So what happened during the NDA process is that Aquestive is going to have all of these advocacy organizations like Snack Safely and stuff like that. Uh, the you know all of these organizations in
They
the allergy
partner a
space.
lot. They
Yeah.
do a lot
Well,
of
you know what they
community.
do is they write letters to the
I see.
FDA. Okay, they write letters to the FDA, to the approving committee on Aquestive's behalf.
Oh, these organizations do.
Yes.
Okay, so I see
Yeah.
because wasn't Barber on this podcast about food allergies, right? It's not a big podcast, but I watched it. So I'm guessing that guy was a micro influencer with
Yeah. That's
uh
next safely guy. Yes.
snacks. It there you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
So he's one of them. Okay. All
Okay,
of the other organization, they're going to be writing letters on behalf of Aquestive because they partner
interesting.
with him. So think about this. Okay. So why do I say it's almost impossible? One way or another, I'm telling you right now, and the film's going to be on the market. There is
And I
no
hope.
there is no way that you can reject the first ever oral epinephrine treatment for severe allergy and anaphylaxis. There's never been an oral, okay? And the most convenient and a device free, a needle free. There is no way that these organizations are going to be sitting back and just let the FDA do whatever they want. They're going to say, you know what, we want this. Our community, our families, our patients, we want this. We want NFM. We want the most convenient, treatment out there. It's easy to use. It's easy to carry, and it works the fastest. And according to Sherry Koczynski, that is the holy grail of epinephrine treatment. How do
Correct.
you reject that? Okay. How
And
do you reject
I
that?
guess the other good thing in this case, and you work in the pharma on the sales side, right?
Yep.
There's no like everything that's approved other than SPRY, but everything that's approved, it's already been off patent for a long time. I
Correct.
mean, that's why AQST is even in this place to begin with. So even if those people, as I've thought cynically, I try to think cynically, let's say a Eli Lilly or a Pfizer, let's say you buy into the conspiracy that these big pharma pay the FDA and they're corrupt and just to keep the new entrants. Well, there's no big player. Like, they don't care. So even if that's the case, you're still okay. Like,
Yeah.
if that's the route you want to go, I know some people are very cynical with the FDA. I'm not necessarily, but I don't know the answer if the FDA is corrupt or not.
Yeah. Um, oh, yeah. Another thing is Nifty got approved, and there's some timeline. There were points in the data that they were out of bracket too. Okay,
Hmm.
there was at some time line that
Yeah.
they were out of it too. So now
Yeah.
I did say before that Aquestive has um, Sprite to be thankful for
Yeah.
because they went through hell and back. And then Aquestive just sitting back here and just learn from them.
Yeah.
And then the FDA gain from that experience and they know what to ask for with Aquestive. And so it really helped Aquestive out. And also, too, that now that they have approved Neffy, it's even more likely that they're going to approve NFL because that was such a
I can't
fail.
wait to go to the NFL party with you, man.
Yeah. Now let's talk about. Let's say, okay, they talk about marketing it, bring NFL to market, and I've said it many times. Sherry Koczynski is the Michael Jordan of epinephrine marketing. We have her.
Do you
Okay.
think peak, let's say it's $1 billion drug, okay? Do you think in the peak, like 3, 4 years, it's doing 300 million a year? Do you think that's possible?
Um, yeah, I mean the first year, yeah. I mean it's
No, not the first year, just like when it's in its peak, like, like in its prime. Like,
okay.
because, so, if so, then the current valuations are way off, and I mean, let's say you get 3 years of like peak sale, like in the heyday, you know how everything has a bell curve, right? There's a
Yeah.
huge adoption, and then it kind of fizzles out, then generic later. So in that middle, if you can get like 300 million a year, you know, you almost don't need any other IP in the pipeline of AQST for this to be
Yeah.
$20.
Well, Sherry brought that up.
Yeah.
EpiPen was only doing $100 million a year
Mm,
sales.
mm,
She took it over,
mm-hmm.
$1 billion. Um, it, because see, and the film has an X factor.
Mm.
Think about this: if EpiPen can do $1 billion with how
Something you
inconvenient it
shank
is,
yourself with, like you literally
yeah. I
gotta
mean,
shank
that
yourself.
needle, that big old needle, bulky device, if it can get $1 billion,
Yeah.
do you? I mean, think about what NFL is going to get.
And these EMT workers, right? They're running around. They got all this heavy ass equipment.
Yeah,
Their fire engine ambulance is limited space, so get
yeah,
rid of some of these bulky
yeah,
briefcases and put in. You could put in a bunch of these little films.
yeah. Oh, another thing that Sherry brought up too is that in their research, market research with doctors, and I've said this before, they have laid it out to doctors. EpiPen, RBQ, Neffy, and a film. And a film always ranks number one.
Mm,
You cannot
of
beat
course.
oral administration of drugs.
Has I know you want to get into something else real quick, and we're running out of time, but has SPRY announced any sales data yet?
Uh, Not that I know of. They can get weekly data, but
Okay.
I don't expect. Okay, so they're
It's
in
like a leading
little.
indicator, kind of. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I
No,
don't know
no,
what
no,
you're.
no. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what's in Sherry's wheelhouse because hers is marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, Neffy is 30% unrestricted insurance coverage. This is basically after 1 quarter of
Mm.
sales. It's okay. Um, you want it to be a little bit higher. You want to be around 50% now. So they're behind. But this is why I say Aquestive is such, they're going to do so good. Remember, I've been doing this for 19 years. I'm in
Yeah,
right in the thick of it. I know what a good launch looks like, and I'm telling you right now,
I know.
they are freaking. Think about this. What Sherry said today. We have been talking to insurance since last fall
Hmm.
for Anafilm. Think about this. And they just hire a lady for market access, which is besides Sherry, she's the second most important person because it doesn't matter how good your drug is. If it's not insurance, forget about it. Okay.
That's what happened
So
with KMPH, Chem Farm.
yeah. So this is why Spry needed Sherry. They couldn't get Sherry.
Well, of
But
course, because Sherry could pick, who she
yeah,
wants to go. Okay, really
yeah.
quick. It's kind of related to this question and related to what we're talking about. The
Okay.
overall market situation is not good. We kind of addressed as AQC doing well. Is there anything with RFK, Maha movement? There is going to be a war against pharmacy benefit managers. Is there anything that could throw a wrench in this NFL party, hypothetically, that you can foresee? Any color you want to share along those lines? Like, I know I'm kind of asking for you to predict the black swan, but We know this administration's particularly hostile with PBMs, or at least they've indicated they might be. They say we're paying too high, the highest country paying drugs in the world, blah, blah, blah. So please tell me we're okay, man. Please. Does this affect us at all?
Dan, what's funny is, did you know that they talked about this on the conference call?
On the Oppenheimer?
Yes.
What did they say?
So, Francois asked about that.
Okay.
With all of the changes and potential changes, has there been any changes with you dealing with your interactions with the FDA?
He was speaking in code. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Dan said, we are dealing with the same people all this time.
Mm-hmm.
There's been no changes whatsoever.
Thank God, man. Let's get this thing pushed through.
Now, you said about PBM.
Mm-hmm.
If the government gets rid of PBM, you know what that means? Cheaper drug for the patients, more money in the pocket for AQST. Okay? Because they don't have to do rebates, big rebates. Okay? They could do rebates directly to the insurance, but it's a lot cheaper than having to do it to the PBM. They charge too much.
I see. Like those coupons that they do. Is that what you're talking about, or
no? The coupons out of the company's pocket.
Correct.
I'm talking about there's behind the scene money. Hey, you want us to put you on Blue Cross Blue Shield? Okay, why don't you pay us this much to get on here?
I see.
Okay, now the company is not talking to the insurance company at all, because the insurance company is asking the PBM to deal with all of that for them, but the insurance company was thinking that they're saving money by doing that. But no, but ended up the PBM was actually making more money than insurance.
I see. So it's like a middleman bloatware, basically. That
yes.
Okay.
So actually getting rid of PBM is actually an advantage to AQST.
Okay.
And when you're in a old medicine that's been proven, and been used for hundreds of years or whatever.
Yeah.
The case of Anafilm, RK is not going to have any impact on Anafilm. This is a proven treatment. Actually, some of the things he said is actually, to me, is very practical. And what is more practical than having the easiest to use, easiest to carry, and works the fastest rescue epinephrine, treatment on the market.
Right.
So he will be like really supportive of that.
Okay.
So I have no fears about that. Now other biotechs that some people may be concerned about, but I actually, at this point in Aquestive journey, it's really all about Anafilm, the NDA and acceptance or approval. No macro, whatever it's going to be able to, it's going to go up and down, but ultimately when this is approved, or before it's about to get approved, or if AdCom recommends it, I mean, it's going to be, So now let's talk about AdCom too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the FDA said they may, not that they will, right? Now, and I've told you, Dan, that I actually prefer the AdCom.
Right. Soft landing.
Yeah, because they have more voices from different backgrounds, than these hardcore people who are just looking at PK. Right? There are going to be people on this board that is going to be like, this is what we need. Do you know that one of the board members just recently got chosen to be on the Allergy and Asthma Advisory Committee.
No, I might have heard about this actually on their they
So
announced on their LinkedIn, I believe.
Julie Crop,
Okay,
okay, but she's not a voting member, okay, but she's just recently chosen. Now let me ask you this: don't you think the boards talk to other board members?
of course, of course,
So,
of course. I'm
you
on a
know,
like I'm on some startup boards for some research tech companies,
yeah,
and yeah, I mean we talk to other
yeah,
board. Hey, Brad, what's going on? Like
yeah,
these guys. Of course, they talk all the time.
yeah, and so basically, um, I know that when there's nothing happen, and then the market sentiment goes south. And,
Hmm.
it's trading in this range, whatever. But I'm telling you right now, at the current price, oh my god, you know.
People were
So
tweeting me. It's so funny, man. People were tweeting me. I was kind of live tweeting a little while I was listening, and then I had a Zoom, and I came back at the end. I'm gonna watch the replay, but people were tweeting me, yeah, but not exciting enough. And then I talked to you, and you're like, "This is the best one I heard ever."
the,
It shows you like a professional versus like a amateur level.
the yeah, this is the first time ever that we get to hear from the CEO said, "This is what the FDA is concerned about. This is how we're going to address it." And
Hmm.
boom, and the evidence is overwhelmingly in favor of approval of ML.
Man, you better be
So,
right by a text
uh,
scan.
you
You've
know,
been right on a lot of your stuff, man. I gotta give you props.
I, dude, I've been reading clinical trials for all these years and reading the fine print of all this data. You have no idea how many clinical trials data that I have to read through with my work, and you can't reject this data. You can't
Yeah,
put such a clean profile with the pharmacodynamic, which is the efficacy side, that is so awesome, that works so fast and relieves symptoms right away, to the PK data that, yeah, at one point it was too high, at one point it was too low, but only just and it's transient. That's another thing we didn't talk about. It's transient. That means it comes and it, bam, it goes, right? And since there are no set of what is too high and where it's too low, with the overwhelming evidence that it's a safe drug that will relieve symptoms of this really, during critical moments of patients' lives when they're experiencing anaphylactic shock. You rather be on the too much side than the too little side.
and rapid onset and all that.
Yeah. So.
Man, I'm more convicted. Right. I was not gonna lie, man. Around January, I was like, and I kept buying. I'm like, dude, I own way more than I ever wanted to own. But at the end of the day, it's like I think I'm convicted enough to realize there's something here that is way undervalued.
Yep. We haven't, and we didn't even talk about AQST 108, which is, alopecia areata. And I said it's going to be bigger than NFL. So we focus on NFL now, but the market's going to be much bigger with AA than NFL. And so that's going to be, and so before NFL's approval, we should already got result for AQST 108 study
Yeah.
already. And so can you imagine if that
Mm.
data is positive and combining that with the approval, and then
Yeah.
2027 we can have the full approval of Libervant just promotion. It's already
Right. Right. Right.
conditionally,
I
but
saw that. That was good news, and the stock didn't even move on that day. I remember.
yeah. So
People
because
forgot about Libervan already. People don't even care
yeah,
about that one.
yeah, it's gonna, like Dan Barber said, it's gonna bring in about $100 million a year.
Which is what EpiPen was doing before Sherry got there.
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
anyway, but thanks for this,
Yeah, no,
brother.
thank you,
And,
man. I mean, you brought the house down. 551 people right now watching in
well,
the
I
evening.
before we go, Dan, I just want to congratulate you with your newborn.
Thank you, man.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Very happy for you and your wife.
Thank you.
And get some sleep. And
It's hard to do, man. Hard to do, especially when you're live streaming and on Zooms during the day. The baby boy only sleep during the day. You know what though? This got real because I know I'm not allergic to anything. Thank God. I know allergies can happen anytime, but I'm an adult. I can take care of myself, my wife too. But now I have a son. It became real. You think about these things now. You're like, he's newborn. What if he's exposed? Like, how do
yeah,
I know? I
yeah,
have pets. What
yeah,
if he's exposed? And then in back of my head, I'm like, Anafilm. I know it's not approved for newborn, but damn,
yeah.
we need these things out in the market because at the end of the day, you illustrated it best, unfortunately, with your personal example. But this is life and death. It's not about. At the end of the day, it's to improve patient outcomes and help people live better lives. So whether it's $3 or $30, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter if it's life or death for somebody.
That's that's basically the bottom line. And another thing I want to add is that Dan and I here doing this live stream talking about Aquestive Therapeutics. If you think it's a good investment to make, buy the shares. If
Yeah.
not, don't buy.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need to pump anything. We just sharing our conviction. I'm just sharing with you my research. Um, but the people who are just coming out of the basement and just so bored and they just tweet, bashing the stock. I don't give them attention, and you shouldn't. Don't respond. The mute and the block
Roger.
button is beautiful. Use them.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Thank you so much, Biotech Scanner. Um, we'll do it again. I know you had another company you want to discuss, but right now,
No, we
this was
don't need to.
not.
Yeah,
This
not
was
yeah,
all.
not yet. I'm
If
still
this
doing
thing's
the
under
PE.
$3, this is the
Yeah,
one right now.
yeah. No, it's I'm focusing on AQST right now, and because of the market condition, I'm delaying everything. So
Yeah.
you know, but
Smart
yeah,
move.
it's good talking with you. Take care of the baby. Say hi to the
Thank you.
wife,
Thank you.
and
Likewise.
I will talk to you next time.
Thank you very much, Biotech Scanner. Everybody go follow him. You probably are already, but if you're not, come on. Go do it and
Thank you, buddy.
don't buy it. Do whatever you guys want. Bye bye.
Yeah. All right. Bye bye.